See, it's got that kind of low level
Yeah, kind of room noise.
room noise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Hey.
hey, thank you very much for joining us
Yeah.
here for Choose Your Question. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to
Yeah.
be
Excited
here
to do
with
it.
us. Great, that's awesome. All right, first things first, I ask you to bring in a few things about yourself, 3 facts or.
Yes. Yeah. So my name is Kevin Yancey. I guess sort of some initial kind of facts about me. I'm married. I've been married for 16 years, which makes me feel very old. I have 2 kids, 2 wonderful kids, Vera and Leo. This is all sort of one factoid. I'm thinking like a little fact cluster.
Right.
We have 3 cats and 2 dogs. That's kind of first kind of big fact, kind of just about me.
Family fact.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of ground level.
Yeah.
Second fact, I did my undergraduate degree at Texas Tech in theater, which I think is fun. And then I got my MBA at St. Edward's here in Austin. Yeah, third fact, I enjoy Dungeons and Dragons. Had a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. I still play regularly, and also enjoy playwriting and a bit of novel writing. Someday I'll finish one, you know. But yeah, that's my facts.
Awesome. Do you or have you introduced? So your daughter is 9, your son is 2.
Yeah.
Has she entered the world of Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes. Yeah, she has played with us, and she had a great time. Yeah, she loved it.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. She wants to play more. You know? But it's tough because normally it's like we have to get Leo to stay with my parents, you know, and so then it's like, well, if we're taking Leo to my parents, you got to go with my parents too. So,
Right.
yeah.
When did you get into it? As an adult, or were you still a kid?
I was an adult. Yeah.
Mhm.
It wasn't until I was, oh my gosh, in my like late 20s. So kind of a late bloomer in Dungeons and Dragons. Everybody says,
Right.
they started as a teenager, and no, I was much later.
I wonder. It seems like I guess I don't know this, but my younger son got into it when he was, I guess 9 or 10. It seems like that's about the age where a kid's brain could maybe start to get into it a little bit more. I guess there were some that if you
Yeah.
were a little younger you could too, but that seems about right.
Yeah, I think you have to have kind of a good grasp of. I mean, you know, the main aspect of it is fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, you can do it 2 or 3. You know, it's like, oh, we're playing pretend. You're, be a knight and fight the dragon. Very easy. The tougher bit is the like rules and the
Mhm.
math. There's a surprising amount of math to be done in D&D. It's much simpler in like the later editions, but especially the early editions, I've heard horror tales of, it's a graph and you have to cross-reference and do algebra.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's probably a good age. I think Vera was 6 when she first played with us, and
That's impressive.
yeah, absolutely loved it. And yeah, just wants to play more, but it's, again, hard to find time.
Yeah. I heard someone, I can't remember what the context was where someone was telling me about this, but I heard that one of the signs of a kid maturing is that they can handle ambiguity better. Like when you're young, when you're a little kid, you really need things to be black and white.
Yeah.
But as you age and ideally as you mature, you're able to handle more and more ambiguity. And it feels like a game like Dungeons and Dragons, where obviously there are rules, but it's not rules like Candyland or
Yeah.
Tic-Tac-Toe or whatever. Like it's a whole world, and there's a lot of ambiguity within the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when I first played with some of my friends, again, if you don't kind of understand the kind of conceit of Dungeons and Dragons, that like, oh, you're in this high fantasy world, this is your character, and here's a sheet of things your character can do. I mean, obviously they can. I want to go across the room, but also like here's sort of the magic things they can do. I had one friend who was like, I want to turn into the Incredible Hulk. Cool. That's not something that you're. This is a 30-year-old man. He just again just sort of the main idea of it had just kind of escaped him, and so it's like, in a way, and then you sort of get the other people who are like, well, what are we doing? Like, what's the party doing? What should we do next? And it's like, well, no, that's the fun part is you get to decide. I'm going to lay out a nice meaty plot hook and say like, oh, hey, don't you guys want to take this assassination contract on this prince who's been robbing this municipality? And you could just tell me, no, we don't. We just want to go shopping. Totally fine. We'll do a shopping episode.
That's where video games kind of lost me.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've been talking to one of my kids and have asked some version of the question. So what is the point of this?
Yeah. Or like when you play video games, you always hit invisible walls. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is as far as they've designed because it's a limited system, right? And the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons is it's like, no, it's not. It's if you're like, no, we're gonna go travel for 30 days and go to this other city, I can make it up on the fly, I guess, and that's, I think, a really beautiful aspect of the game.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, we are back with the main portion of the show, the time at which you choose your question, which was the genesis for the name of the show, Choose Your Question. I don't know if you put that together.
Worked on it.
Yeah. Anyway, if you could choose one and then let me read it to you before you read it, before you look at it. There are 53 options.
Very good.
Excellent. Okay.
So curious.
You have question 16. And the question is, when is the last time you were inside a house of worship?
Oh. Oh, good. We're going to keep it light.
Yeah, we're going to keep it light. Just a fun question.
Just a fun, easy. No. Okay. The last time I was in a house of worship. Is it bad that it's taking me this long to think about that? I think, like, literally just in one, it was. So my parents go to church up in Leander.
Mm-hmm.
And they got Elizabeth to bring her ice cream truck out for an event. And so we just went in. I think I went in to use the bathroom. That's technically the last time I was in a house of worship. If the question is, when was I last in a house of worship?
As part of some sort of event.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Man, that's probably 5 years ago. Again, probably visiting my parents back when they were in Breckenridge at their Fundamentalist Baptist Church to go to service. Sort of an odd feeling to go back and put on dress clothes on a Sunday morning. I'm obviously not a regular churchgoer, as you can deduce from the answer. But yeah, probably 5 years ago with that sort of, that sort of time. Man. And it's sort of odd because I grew up, again, a fundamentalist Baptist, and it was an event every Sunday, only to be missed when Dad really put his foot down and really didn't want to go.
Yeah.
It was the only time.
When you guys went on vacation when you were a kid, did you have to go to church?
Really, no. So that's something I found out as I think that may be, maybe it's a Baptist thing. I know it's really super common with I had Mormon friends who were if we're going on vacation, we're still going to church. And I know some Catholic people, some of my Catholic friends have said that, but no, if it was vacation, but if it was, so I was in the Boy Scouts. And so if there was ever a camp that went over a Sunday morning, there was a little thing, little chapel service. And I frequently was the chaplain. And so I probably, as many as I went to, probably led as many, a long
Yeah. Part of the reason I put that question in there, and there actually are several, I wouldn't say faith-based questions, but
Sure.
questions that center. I mean, it's hard to write thought-provoking questions without bumping up against topics like
Yeah.
faith and spirituality and that kind of stuff. But part of the reason why I did that one specifically is just my own upbringing was very similar to yours.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't a question of whether we were going to church, like we were going,
Yeah.
and it was just expected. And so, and I'm always kind of curious for people who were maybe raised in that environment, who have gotten away from it, like the reasons why you might be put
Yeah,
back
why might I
into
come
that
into it?
environment. I mean, weddings
Yeah.
happen. That
Oh yeah.
that kind of thing happens.
Although it's funny is all the weddings I think I've been to have not been. That was my own
Yeah.
wedding was not at a church. But you know, I think when I first moved here, I thought I would give it a try. I think I don't know, maybe I read something that inspired me to try to go back
Mm-hmm.
and do it. And I went to one of the many mega churches here, not one of the many MANY, one of the MINI smaller mega churches.
Gotcha.
Paradoxical, but
Much about church is.
but you know, right? But I remember I went and I was like, you know, the vibe is good. It seems like these are good folks. It just didn't fit. It didn't have the same ring that it used to. You know, and I've talked to Elizabeth about this because obviously, like I said, we started at sort of a very conservative. Both she and I went to conservative fundamentalist Baptist places, and consistently the messaging was, you don't negotiate with the Bible. That the Bible is infallible and perfect and handed down. And I've since learned that is a very fringe movement of Christianity. I thought that was what all of Christianity
Right.
was. And I have asked Elizabeth, I'm like, do you think that we would still be going to church if we'd instead been raised in a more sort of open, welcoming,
Mhm.
the Bible, acknowledging that the Bible is full of contradictions, that you have to go in and negotiate with the text to find what you want out of it, what you need out of it.
Right.
Would we still be going there? I don't know. I mean, who's to know if that would have worked out?
Yeah.
But I think I'm probably, weirdly enough now, closer than I've ever been to being open to potentially going back to church.
Mm-hmm.
But it is tough to give up Sundays.
Oh, you're not wrong.
Man.
A Sunday morning,
I know. It's
so good.
It's so good. And then the other side of it is like, now again, I've got 2 kids. I'm going to have to get them up. And I'm going to have to now be the enforcer making my kids. And so not only am I overcoming my own impetus, I now have to be 2 kids who, Leo has never gone to church.
Mm-hmm.
And Vera only went with my parents. My gosh, yeah, trying to make that happen, there's just no way.
What, those parts of you that were engaged, let's say, in kind of the religious experience when you were young,
Yeah.
what have you used to kind of replace church in order to find fulfillment in a different way, but kind of flex those same sort of spiritual muscles?
Yeah.
What is kind of like the adult version of that for you?
Yeah. I think because a big part of it's community, right?
Yeah.
You go to church and it's like-minded people coming together with good purpose.
Mm-hmm.
One of the great things about religion. I think I've built community. We've got friends, and we've got I've got friends that we play D&D with. We've got a couple friends, and I think that sort of fills that sort of aspect of it. The sort of like collective awe of church. I think this is reductive, and I don't mean it to be. Almost sort of gets filled by concerts and like live theater. That sort of like group catharsis, um, which I think is something that a lot of people go to church for, but kind of don't have a name for it.
Right.
I think that kind of gets filled through secular means. Again, not to devalue that for people that get it from church or to say that that is the entirety of it, but I think that meets the need for me. I think then the only thing that's lacking, if I were to like put a word to it, and it's a very Catholic word that I did not grow up with, it is the mystery of it is missing.
Yeah.
I think the Baptist tradition doesn't really put a whole lot of stock in mysticism and mystery, and it's kind of a shame because I think they're talking about it like indirectly, and when they talk about it, and that is missing. I feel like I don't have a good gap for that. Have you felt anything similar?
I think that's such an interesting way of putting it, and I don't know that I would ever have arrived at the idea of that, but I will say, even today, if I travel to a city that has a beautiful old church, one, I'll always go visit it, because in some way it's going to be gorgeous. There's something that's going to be gorgeous about it.
Yeah.
The artwork inside, the architecture, but more than that, I still feel moved by it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I appreciate about. A lot of these old churches and places where you go, they're Catholic churches, and you feel awe when you walk in there, even if it's not an awe that's rooted in necessarily a belief in the higher power that this church is worshiping. It's still, there's a grandeur, I think that word mystery you said is such a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like even if someone had never known what church was, had never gone, I feel like even they could walk into a place like that and think, there's something about this place that's different, something's being tapped into here.
And I feel like I feel the same way. I went through a pretty serious Buddhist phase in high school, specifically, kind of focusing in Zen Buddhism, and it really scratched that same kind of itch of like, that otherness, that thing that you can't, that you're kind of feels like the core of church. But man, that is a tough thing to find in secular life, like that last little piece.
Yeah.
If you ever find it, let me know.
Well, part of this and part of my own path has always been very much keeping a channel open.
Yeah.
In case there is any sort of communication. I don't really expect that there will be.
Yeah.
And it could come from anywhere. But if I felt it, or if I heard it, I wouldn't run from it.
Yeah.
If it moved me, and I've read, I've done reading in all kinds of different religious traditions, including the Buddhist tradition, and I do think there is something to be said for that. There is something that you kind of can't find in secular life, like what you just said. And I don't know if that's just having faith.
Yeah. And I wonder, and it's so interesting to me because, again, I'm raising my kids in a secular way. Do they know that? Is it something that they're missing? Like, but does she do my kids have that experience and don't associate it with church? Is it something that's been spread out across their entire life? It's a good question.
And not forced on them. Maybe they come to it on their own in their own time, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh
Go ahead.
no, I would just say, 5-year-old me would have told you very earnestly that I was having these religious experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. I probably wasn't. I probably didn't have the capacity to understand these things. I probably was, getting attention for being like, yes, I'm being religious, like, oh, very good, and that's the
Yeah.
the happy chemical hit.
Yeah.
But I totally believe that, like, at 9 now, Vera could go to her own and be like, no, I kind of want to give this a try.
Mm-hmm.
And if she ever did that earnestly, she's not. She said adamantly, she's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Again, it's tough to give up Sundays. If they could find a way to do church without the Sundays,
Yeah, exactly.
and I don't mean moving it to Wednesdays. That's not the solution.
No. Did you guys go on Wednesday nights?
No, and so yeah, again, and this is something that is sort of odd about my family, and maybe I don't know if you've noticed this with your more religious family members and friends. They have gotten more conservative. I'm talking. I was going to church in like the Bush years. Like this
Mhm.
was what you would think, Bush years in Texas. Like, oh, this would be peak conservatism. But there was like a real taboo about talking about politics at the pulpit.
Yeah.
There was, not really a sort of like talking about politics or religion at like, at school or these sorts of things. And that is a very different world than the world of today.
Yeah.
I know like my parents have gotten significantly more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And then sort of transversely, the liberal members of my family have gotten exponentially more liberal. It's just sort of this heightened, everything is sort of amped up, it feels like, about
Right.
these sort of feelings.
Which feels very much not the point.
Yeah.
Like it feels so, to me at least, so counterintuitive to what I think of when I think of the phrase like spiritual path or whatever.
It feels chill, right? Like it should be chill.
Yeah.
And it's weird that it's not. And, the things that I remember taking as values from religion growing up, of like, like helping people and like caring about people,
Mhm.
and, the sort of like trying to do right, trying to do better. It feels like that's sort of stuff that's kind of gotten left behind. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of, if you were looking for the main idea of it, it feels like that was it.
Right.
Not a like sectarian war of like, are you Southern Baptist Convention, or are you a General Baptist, or are you,
Right.
all that sort of thing that's devolved into.
Yeah, and it's not even like complex theological questions. It's just being basically a decent person.
Yeah.
It's all the
This is
stuff that
hard.
we learn like in Sunday school and Bible school and all
Yeah.
that. It's not like anything that is even, I mean, it's 5, 6-year-old. This is when you learn this stuff, and this is just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I still have. There's a chance maybe that I can sort of find my way back. My mom said something to me, and I'm still kind of digesting it. She said she wasn't talking about me. She was talking about one of her friends talking about their kids. Wink, wink. But no, it was. She said that they're on the long path.
Hmm.
And I was like, I asked her, I said, what does that mean, like the long path? I was like, well, just coming back from leaving the church. And I was like, it's a little annoying that you assume that the path circles back always.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting that you acknowledge that it's long,
Right.
that it's not like you fell off the wagon, to use that different analogy, and hopped back in, and that it's a path that you walk. And I'm like, I still haven't decided how I feel about that one.
Yeah. I like the phrase and kind of what it possibly could represent,
Yeah.
because that, I mean, I think of myself as kind of on a long path.
Yeah.
This is sort of a lifelong thing that I likely won't really ever figure out, but I want to stay in touch with it.
It's very Buddhist. Like, it's very,
Yeah.
It's like the middle. It reminds me a lot of the middle way of Buddhism.
Yeah.
Which it's sort of interesting to hear that kind of Eastern, like language in Western religion.
He's actually stumbled upon something really profound,
Yeah.
kind of without even realizing it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, but I feel like maybe they knew. Maybe there was like some twinge of truth when they said it that they were like, "Oh, that's good. We should write that down."
Totally.
The long path.
This might resonate with Kevin.
That's gonna be the name of a book one of these days.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably on Amazon. I'm sure you can find that.
How much of an issue is this with you and your parents? Like your difference?
So, when I was a teenager, it was a problem.
Mhm.
When I was sort of deconstructing and, stopped going to church initially, it was a big problem. And it reared its head again when we had Vera,
Yeah.
because it became the question of, well, are you going to raise her in the church?
Right.
But, I have friends who have let this question destroy their family.
Mhm.
And I think we have kind of found a really nice homeostasis of like, it's, I don't have a good word to describe it that doesn't make it sound hostile, but it's not hostile. It's sort of just kind of coexistence. I fully accept and respect what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've lived that experience. I know what it's like to be a fundamentalist Baptist. And I think maybe as time has gone on, they've come to respect more my opinion, or maybe they're just quiet about it. I don't know. But it's gotten better. But yeah, I've watched it tear people apart, and it has the opportunity to do it, right? Because if you earnestly believe in fundamentalist Christianity, every conversation you have with a person should be about where are you going when you die. And I feel like that has informed a lot of the conversations I've had with my parents. But I guess maybe they've evolved, I've evolved, and happily see each other several times a week for meals, and it regularly just doesn't come up.
Yeah.
Just, other things.
Yeah. My own
you?
experience with
Yeah.
my mom, there were a couple of years where it felt like, okay, we're going to kind of maybe dance around this a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're totally cool. There were a number of things that drove a wedge between my dad and I, but this was kind of like the final nail in the coffin. Like his insistence.
Yeah.
It went from like, hey, you might want to think about this, to, hey, you're going straight to hell.
Yeah. That's awful.
And it wasn't just that kind of ended our relationship, but that was definitely the last straw. I think what maybe changed with my mom a little bit was, I think her seeing me as a dad, like not just seeing me as her son, but recognizing that there really is kind of an inherent goodness in the things that I do.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a very conscientious human and certainly father.
Yeah.
And I think that there's enough of a spirituality to that, to where I think it
Yeah.
kind of, like, we're good now.
That's a really great way to think about it, and I think that's probably what I'm looking for to describe maybe my parents' evolution in this. Because I got to imagine, if you were to ask me as a 16-year-old, what is your image of a non-Christian? It's a libertine, right? Like it's hedonist. They're out there, living it up on the weekends, drinking and partying. And it's like, well, no, you can just not do that and also be in bed at 9. Be a very boring. And I think maybe it's just that. It's like, well, there is something very ethical about being a good parent. And if people see you doing that, they go, oh, maybe there is something decent about, you can find decency and ethics outside of the constraints of traditional religion.
Right.
I like that.
It's been it's a tricky thing though.
Yeah.
Even just trying to be a spiritual person and walk the long path, and
Yeah.
it can be tricky.
Yeah, it definitely can be. Yeah, be curious to see where my long path ends out. That's I still and I again, there's part of me that finds it like a dig, like it's almost like a, you know. So sidebar. When I was in college, one of my professors, when I told him I was reading Nietzsche, told me, he said, "You're about the right age to be reading Nietzsche." And it burrowed into my brain in a way that no other comment, and he meant it totally off the cuff. He just was like, "You're 20 years old. It's exactly who you should be reading."
Right. You should be
20
listening to
years
the
old.
Doors.
Yeah, he's listening to the Doors. You should be reading Nietzsche.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. And no, he's exactly right. And it has that same ring to it of like, you'll figure it out. Like you'll come back. But it also has the beautiful sort of other side of it that is like, yeah, maybe you will, maybe you won't. It's a long path. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, still cooking on that one.
Yeah. It does feel to me like kind of the ultimate, the path is the goal.
Yeah, very Buddhist.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm more Buddhist than I realize.
Maybe.
Okay, so technically, you were most recently
Yes. To answer your question,
in a church to use the bathroom.
yes, probably a couple months ago. Yeah, to use the bathroom.
Great.
Nice bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this could have been just like a 30-second conversation.
Right, and could have just palled out.
Yeah, we'd have been done by now.
Yeah.
Kevin, I really enjoyed talking to you about that. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that was the question you chose. That was
that's an
a
interesting
great
one.
Yeah. Now, can you provide us with a recommendation or a quote or whatever you brought with
Yes.
us? Some inspiration.
Yes. So I brought two quotes.
Okay.
I've got a somewhat serious one and a somewhat silly one. What would you prefer first? I'll give you.
Let's end on the
choice.
silly. So serious first.
So the serious one it's a quote from a Modest Mouse song. It's from the album Good News for People Who Like Bad News. The song is Blame It on the Tetons. And the lyric is, language is the liquid that we're all dissolved in. Great for solving problems after it creates a problem. I feel like I need to say that again.
Yes, please.
So language is the liquid that we're all dissolved in. Could dissect that for weeks.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Great for solving problems after it creates a problem.
That's so good.
Great quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, if I could, I'm tempted to get it printed and hung in my room because it's so good.
What is it? Why does that in particular stand out to you? I mean, obviously there's a lot to,
Sure.
like you said, you could spend a lot of time on just thinking about that, but what is it specifically about that?
So I think I've said my hobby is kind of playwriting, and I've dabbled a bit in novel writing. And my favorite moments when I'm writing are the times that I find that language is failing. Like when I'm kind of butting up against the kind of edges of the language. I'm like, there's not a good word for that. Or like, there's not really a great way to describe this feeling. And so you have to come up with an analogy, or you have to come up with some simile to make it work. And it's interesting the ways that language can constrain us, but it's also the way that we interact with everything. That everything in our life it exists because we have a word for it. And so in our brain, it is that word as much as it is the thing itself. To kind of get into the sort of philosophical Kantian ideas of that. And I love the idea of thinking that language is that impactful, that it has that kind of power.
Yeah.
And of course it's great for solving problems after it creates the problem.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, love that one.
It's things can be so clear in your head.
Yeah.
And you feel like, okay, I'm about to say this thing to this person, and they're gonna completely see exactly. I've thought about this. I'm gonna word it perfectly, and they're gonna see exactly my point of view on this. And then there's a complete misunderstanding.
Yes. Yeah, and it's because and sometimes it's that you've done everything right,
Mm-hmm.
and but the language just it just has its limits. You know, there are just some things that it can't do, and we ask so much of it. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah, I love that quote. Yeah, it's also a great album. It's the same one that has like "Float On" and all the sort of great hits. You know,
Awesome. It does seem strange that we've put all this pressure on language when really it was just the result of some sort of evolutionary
yeah,
construct. And
yeah, and think about all the many years that humans and humanoids lived, especially without written language. You know, which I think is sort of also part of the problem. I think part of the problem and the solution, because it's both, right? It
yeah,
creates the problem and it's the solution to the problem. Um, but yeah, imagine living in a world where you don't have these words, and it's why I'm so fascinated by linguistics. I think I've said if I could go back and get another degree, which is the last thing I need to do, I would study linguistics because it's
Yeah.
so fascinating to find out how other languages work and how that impacts their culture. You know, not having a word for this, having 20 words for this, you know, it affects their life and the way they live. So yeah, that's my first one. That's my series quote.
Man, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your
silly one.
Semi-silly one.
My silly one is from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Fantastic book. And the quote is, "Time is an illusion, lunchtime doubly so." I love that. And yeah, I think it's taken to me, especially like in my work these days, because I work from home so much. Lunchtime is just what? When? You know, like, am I hungry at 11? Am I hungry at noon? I don't have, so I worked for years in retail. I was I was a cashier, I was a stalker out of college because I had to pay bills. And their time is very much not an illusion. It is, you clock in, you clock out.
Right.
You know, you have a time clock, you're in and out. But now it's like, I don't know, like, is it time for dinner? Are you guys hungry? Like, and so I love the idea of like lunchtime is especially an illusion. There's something funky about lunchtime.
Yeah, breakfast, that's pretty clear, kind of the window there.
Yeah.
Dinner too, I guess. Yeah, lunch
Is too
it's so
wibbly-wobbly.
amorphous, just in there in the middle
Yeah.
somewhere. That's great.
Yeah.